In the very first episode of my hand plane basic series, I told you how incredibly versatile a number 5 jack like this is. Today I'm going to be showing you a very simple mod to turn it into a high angle cutting tool. How's it? My name is Dylan. You're watching Ply Creations, and as always, a very warm welcome to my workshop. One hand plane, 2 cutting angles, and it's easier than you may think. As a woodworker, it's not a matter of if you will encounter tear out, but more a case of when. And when you do, one of the easiest ways to either avoid tear out in certain cases or fix it when it does occur is to increase the cutting angle of your hand plane. And the easiest way to do that is to modify a spare blade and add a back bevel to it, and today I'm going to be showing you how to go about doing the modification. But before we carry on and go to the bench and I'll show you how to do that, is if you've been following along with this series or watched any one of my other videos and you've subscribed to my channel or liked a video, I'd like to send out a heartfelt thanks to all of you guys out there. You really do make it worthwhile going through the process of setting up cameras, filming, and then uploading to YouTube. So thank you very much. The last video I did, I showed you how I maintain my hand planes, and I've added a downloadable PDF that you can download and print out with a checklist that you can follow along as you maintain your own hand planes. The way that you get access to that is you go to that video. I'll leave the link on the screen in the description. Expand the description on the video and you'll find it under links. So go ahead, download the document and print it out and keep it at your bench. But without further ado, let's head over to the bench and I'll show you how to do this modification. Sharpening system, of course you are going to need your blade. This is a spare blade for my number 5 jack. I've flattened the back, reset the primary bevel and sharpened the edge, and this is ready to go. The reason why I like the Veritas honing guide is the angle setting gauge. It allows you to set for high angles, standard angles, and for back bevel specifically, which is exactly what we would want. You may see, hope you can, see it's set to 17 degrees, and there's no particular rhyme nor reason for doing that other than the fact that 17 degrees is the closest to the hole for the 25 degree standard angle, and when I wanted to experiment with back bevels, I moved it to the closest hole. It worked, and I've stuck with 17 degrees ever since. And you can do this freehand. There's no need that you have to have a honing guide. The reason I like to have a honing guide is because it allows me to hit very specific angles. Frankly, this is probably one of the few places where I ever use a honing guide. I sharpen all of my cutting tools by hand. Quickly going to install the blade. Remember, upside down. So the blade goes in so that the back will be on the abrasive surface. Tighten that up. Remove the guide. And now we are ready to proceed. Now here I have my coarse, medium and fine stones. The back bevel that you are going to be forming is very, very small, so you don't need to take away a lot of material. So I'm not even going to be using my coarse stone in the process. So similar process to flattening the back, however you're doing it at an angle, and the area where you're removing metal is very, very small. So this is going to happen quickly. Add some lubrication to the stone. Only a few strokes, wipe it off, and I can feel a very faint burr right along the edge. So really no more than 3 or 4 strokes, and when you feel a burr all along the cutting edge, you're ready to move over to the finer grit. Fine stone. Keep checking for a burr. Ideally you want that to break off. Then we go over to the strop. I keep the blade in the honing guide so that I can maintain the angle that I'm working at. My strop in this orientation works in the direction towards me, so I'll pull the whole assembly a few times, get a nice polish. And ideally what I want to happen is for the bird to break away completely, and it has. If you do find that you still have a burr on the blade, is you can go back to the strop, turn the blade around, strop the primary or the secondary bevel a few times, and then the back bevel again. Only once or twice would work, so angle not as critical. We're just removing the burr. Now I can see a nice shiny line where the back bevel has been formed, and that's not even a millimeter wide. I'm not sure that you'll be able to see it. You can just see the glint of the edge, and that's the back bevel formed. I did mention the angles that that are available to form the back bevel. Once I've put this into the plane and tested it, I'll show you a graphic and explain to you how those angles then contribute to the final cutting angle in use. So I'm going to set up in the plane, bring it back to the bench, and we can do a test. I'll be planing on the side grain of this particular piece. The grain runs from this direction and then up, and then from this way up, and they happen to meet in the middle, which is a typical case of where you will be finding tear out. You can plane a workpiece like this from either side and then just not cross this area here, but I find that a little bit finicky. Before we do the test, I want to give you 1 or 2 tips that will help you when you decide to make this modification. First one is use a marker or a Sharpie and write the angle that you've ground the back bevel to on the blade. That will just remind you what angle you've used for future reference. And then secondly is, if you are fortunate enough to be able to set up more than one plane, it will help you not get your hand planes confused. Ask me how I know. So that will immediately tell you which hand plane you are working with. You'll also might have noticed that I've modified the blade on a number 5. You can do a number 5 jack, you can do a number 4. I would generally not suggest that you modify any plane irons on a plane blade that is wider than that of a number 5 or a number 4. When you pick up this hand plane and you start using it, you will immediately realize that you have a lot more resistance in the cut while using it. And that's because of the high angle of the cut. And as a result, the wider the blade is, of course, the wider the piece of metal is that you need to push through the cut. So it is better suited to narrower blades. Also, on this piece of wood, it's really hard to show you tear out on a section of lumber, so I am showing you a macro shot of what the tear out looks like. I'm going to give it a few swipes with the hand plane, and then I'll show you another macro shot of the final result. So let's have at it. So I'm going to do the final finishing with one of my favorite hand planes. And this little guy almost did a better job than the modified number 5. I'm showing you another macro shot of the final result, and there's a nice clean sheen where previously we had tear out. So a high angle cut is a good idea if you're struggling with tear out. Of course, some pieces of wood simply don't want to be planed, and you may sometimes need to go up to something like a scraper. And it's always fun to make shavings for shaving's sake. YouTube always gives me a good excuse to spend some qualities with my hand plane. Not that I really need any excuse. You would have heard me now discuss bevel angles, back bevel angles, bedding angles, and so forth. So how does everything come together to determine the cutting angle of a bog standard number 5 jack or a number 4? How that works is, keep in mind that this is what is called a standard angle bevel down hand plane. Bevel down because when you install the blade, the primary and the secondary bevel are pointing downwards. It doesn't matter what those angles are. It is the bedding angle of the frog that determines the cutting angle, and in this case 45 degrees. I'm showing you a graphic on the screen that will better demonstrate what I'm trying to explain. The angle of your back bevel is then added to the angle of your frog, so it's 17 degrees plus 45 degrees, and if my maths don't let me down, that's 62 degrees cutting angle. And that's effectively how, using a very simple mod, you can change this tool into a specialized tool that will help you manage tear out in a much more effective manner. Of course, that's the case with that plane. In the case of the little high angle smoother that I've made, is the bedding angle I changed this to, I think if I recall correctly, it's 65 degrees. So now the bedding angle of the blade is 65 degrees and the cutting angle is 65 degrees. That means I do not in any way need to modify the blade to be able to increase the cutting angle. This is set at 65 degrees. I love this little plane, and it's a really reliable way of sorting out tear out. Mentioning tear out, I did mention earlier that I've added a downloadable checklist to one of my previous videos. Go and check that out, download it for yourself. But if you'd like to get access to all my downloadable documents in my download library, I'm leaving a barcode on the screen that you can scan. Sign up, you've got access to all my downloads. You can download them and print them as many times as you like. And if I recall, there's 2 documents there that will help you with different techniques that will help you manage tear out. Because, as any woodworker will tell you, it's not a matter of if, but when you encounter tear out, and those documents will help you out. At the end of this video, it brings us also to the end of the Hand Plane Basics series, and thank you for joining me here. At least that's the end for now. The next video I'm hoping to release is where I show you how I adjust this jig to be able to install my jointer blades accurately. It's one of the most requested follow-up videos on my channel. If you go and check out the card I'm leaving on the screen now, you can go and look at that video, and then keep an eye out for this one. Should be coming out just after the one you're watching now. As always, at the end of this video, I'd like to thank you for spending time with me in my workshop and watching me make shavings. And until I see you again next time, I hope you have a good one. Be safe in your workshop. Until then, cheers.